this is my chance to be a hero for the sake of the nation. But Allah had other plans for me. We had the right to make the other side feel our pain.
Recruiting is an art, a very difficult art. You need to make him betray his own people.
He asked me, would you work for us? To collaborate with Israel is the most shameful thing.
The first day handling him was the first day of the end of my career. We called him the Green Prince.
My father was the top Hamas leader in the West Bank. He had no clue what I was doing.
It's like recruiting the son of the Israeli Prime Minister.
Deep in my heart, I was really terrified.
A good source needs to be with you, not against you.
You're a target, and you can get killed anytime.
I really felt responsible for Mosab, as a source and as a human being.
I was on my own.
He was in a real trouble.
I start to realize that people are dying because of this lie.
This is a big game.
No one else knows about you. You will start to lose your sense of reality.
He's not just a source. He was there for us all the time.
That kind of bond is impossible to break.
Hey guys, hey everybody, welcome to House Connell, welcome to BB and Bobina's Book Nook. My name is Regina Connell. So again, this is BB and Bobina's Book Nook, a division of RC Squared, a podcast for the people. So if you guys joined us earlier, we did cover most of our, is he still speaking? We covered most of the press conference and speech from RFK. And I think the main takeaway that we have is that we're grateful that he got that platform in order to convey his message, his policies, and what he would like to see for the nation, the people, all of it. And all we could ever ask from any person that we elect into office is that they be transparent with us and be forthcoming with us. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed the intro trailer I did of The Green Prince, which is the documentary that was made after the book Son of Hamas by Mosab Hassan Yousef. I will say I have a unique advantage as I have read this book more than once, actually. And I really like this book. I love this book. We're almost towards the end of it. We're in chapter 25. I will remind everyone that he does have a new book out. It's called From Hamas to America. I just saw him on the scene. So before we close out, I'll try to play a clip of that. I did play it yesterday, I believe. I played a clip of The Green Prince as well, or one of his interviews. I played a clip of a couple of interviews that Mr. Yousef had done. And then we closed out with a clip of an interview from, I can't remember the content creator, but I'll get back to you on that. But anyway, he did give an interview and he talked about the current affairs and the state of the Palestinian territories and the Israeli war. So let's jump back into Son of Hamas by Mosab Hassan Yousef and let him tell it only the way that he can tell it with Ron Brackin. All right, we are in chapter 25, and I will say he does a fantastic job citing sources, resources, all of it. All right, let's continue on, you guys. Please remember, if you're liking this content, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. It doesn't cost a thing. And as with any book club, I do strongly encourage you. You usually get a copy of the book for yourself. Sorry, the camera keeps moving and my dog's excited. He knows that our 7-year-old's going to be jumping off the school bus soon. Anyway, Bobina's Book Nook. If you don't know how to get a copy or can't obtain your own copy, let us know and we'll figure out a way to get you your very own copy of this book. And it is important to read it along as well, simply because I don't cover everything in the book. I do try to read it word for word to honor the author, because I would never want to pick and choose their words as to what they want to convey to the public. They wrote the whole of the book for a reason. I do leave certain things out simply because the sources recited in there. I could pull up the website, but go get the book yourself. I think it's truly life-changing when we have the book in front of us. If you're unable to see, you don't have sight, My dream had always been to put book on audio. So again, I do go back and make sure that, hey, I hope I'm reading this correctly. And so I hope I'm never citing anything wrong. I do try to stay on top of it. And I will gently remind everyone, it is just my good Lord King husband and myself, Big Russ. Without further ado, let's continue on to chapter 25, Saleh, winter 2003 to spring 2006. It was easy to know where Saleh and his friends had been. The blood they left in their wake was unmistakable, but until now, nobody had been able to catch up to them. I'm going to turn the camera off. I always like to keep the camera off because, like I said, I like the focus to be solely on the book itself. So, all right, let's continue on. So, that the Shin Bet had found him broke my heart. Saleh was my friend. He had helped me with my studies. I had shared bread with him and his wife, and I had played with his children. But Saleh was also a terrorist. During his imprisonment by the Palestinian Authority, he had continued his studies through Al-Quds Open University. Sorry, there's a creature on my desk. Try to choose life. But Saleh was also a terrorist. During his imprisonment by the Palestinian authority, he had continued his studies through Al-Quds Open University and used what he learned to become such a great bomb maker that he could even make explosives from garbage. After Saleh's release by the PA, the Shin Bet watched to see how much time it would take him and his friends to rebuild the Al-Qassam brigades. It didn't take long at all. The rebuilt organization wasn't big, but it was deadly. Maher Odeh was the brains of the operation, Saleh, the engineer, and Bilal Barghouti, the recruiter of suicide bombers. In fact, the Hamas military wing consisted of only about 10 people who operated independently, had their own budgets, and never met together unless it was urgent. Saleh could turn out several explosive belts overnight, and Bilal had a waiting list of candidates for martyrdom. Ugh. I know that had to be so hard on you, Mosab. I can't even imagine. If I had believed Selah, if I had believed Saleh was innocent, I would have warned him about what was going to happen. But when we finally connected the dots, I realized that he had been behind the Hebrew University bombing and many others. I understood that he needed to be locked away in prison. The only thing I might have done was introduce him to the teachings of Jesus and urge him to follow them as I did. But I knew he was too blinded by rage, zeal, and commitment to have listened, even to an old friend. I could, however, beg the Shin Bet to arrest Saleh and the others rather than kill them. And very reluctantly, they agreed. Israeli security agents had been monitoring Saleh for more than 2 months. They watched him leave his apartment to meet in an abandoned house with Hassanin Romana, and they watched him return home, where he remained for a week or so. They saw that his friend Sayed al-Sheikh Qassem went out more frequently, but he always did what he had to do and came right back. Sorry, guys. The caution of the fugitives was impressive. No wonder it had taken so long to find them. Once we picked up their scent, however, it was just a matter of tracking their contacts and contacts of contacts, about 40 or 50 in all. We had a lock on 3 of the guys on our most wanted list, but for Ibrahim, Hamed, and Maher Odeh, we had only clues, nothing concrete. We had to decide whether to wait until the clues led us to them, which was a long shot, or break the spine of the Al Qassam brigades in the West Banks by arresting those we had already located. We decided on the latter, figuring we might even get lucky and snag Hamed or Ode when we hauled in our net. On the night of December 2003, Special Forces surrounded more than 50 suspected locations at one time. Every troop available had been called in from all over the West Bank. The Hamas leaders were holed up at Al Kiswani building in Ramallah, and they did not respond when they were asked to surrender. Saleh and Sayed had a lot of weaponry, including heavy machine guns, the type usually found welded to military vehicles. The standoff began at 10 p.m. and continued through the night. When the shooting started, I could hear it from my house. Then the unmistakable explosion of a Merkava cannon shattered the morning, and everything was quiet. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. Your friend is gone. Loai told me, I'm so sorry. You know, we would have spared him if we could have. But let me tell you something. If this man, Loai's voice broke as he tried to continue, if this man had grown up in a different environment, he would not have been the same. He would have been just like us. He thought, he really believed he was doing something good for his people. He was just so wrong. Though I knew I had loved Saleh and didn't want him to die, he knew Saleh was resisting something he believed to be evil and hurtful to his people, and maybe somehow Loai had come to care about Saleh too. Are they all dead? I haven't seen the bodies yet. They took them to Ramallah Hospital. We need you to go there and identify them. You're the only one who knew them all. Oh man, poor Mosab, I'm so sorry. You had to identify so many. Wow. He just really had to do a lot of stuff. All right, let's keep going. I grabbed a coat and drove over to the hospital, desperately hoping that maybe it wasn't Saleh. Maybe somebody else had been killed. When I arrived, it was chaos. Angry Hamas activists were shouting in the streets, and police were everywhere. No one was allowed inside, but because everybody knew who I was, the hospital officials let me in. A medical worker led me down a hallway to a room lined with large coolers. He opened the refrigerator door and slowly pulled out a drawer, releasing the stench of death into the room. I looked down and saw Saleh's face. He was almost smiling, but his head was empty. Disclaimer, this is graphic material. Syed's drawer contained a collection of, sorry, pages are stuck together. No, they're not. Oh gosh, this is so hard, you guys. All right, Saleh's drawer contained a collection of body parts, legs, head, whatever, in a black plastic bag. Hassanin Romana had been ripped in half. I wasn't even sure it was him because the face was shaved, and Hassanin had always worn a soft brown beard. Despite media reports to the contrary, Ibrahim Hamed was not with the others. The man who had ordered these men to flight to the death had run away to save himself. With virtually all of the West Bank Hamas leaders dead or in prison, I became the contact for the leaders in Gaza and Damascus. Somehow, I had become a key contact for the entire Palestinian network of parties, sects, organizations, and cells, including terrorist cells, and no one but a handful of elite Shin Bet insiders knew who or what I really was. It was astonishing to think about. Because of my new role, it was my sad responsibility to organize the funerals for Saleh and the others. As I did so, I watched every move and listened for every angry or grief filled whisper that might lead us to Hamed. Since the rumors are already flying, Loai said, and you are sitting in for the leaders we've arrested, let's put out the word that Ibrahim Hamed cut a deal with the Shin Bet. Most Palestinians have no idea what's going on. They'll believe it, and he'll be forced to defend himself publicly or at least contact the political leaders in Gaza or Damascus. Either way, we may get a lead. They come up with some of the most ingenious plans, I think. It was a great idea, but the agency brass nixed it because they were afraid Ibrahim would launch an attack on civilians in retaliation, as if Israel's killing his friends and arresting half of his organization hadn't made him angry enough. Good point. I added that in. Good point. So we did it the hard way. Agents bugged every room in Hamed's house, hoping his wife or children might let something slip, but it turned out to be the quietest house in Palestine. Once we heard his young son, Ali, ask his mother, "Where is Baba?" "We don't talk about that at all," she scolded. So he's not even allowed to talk about his father, mention his name, where he might be, because of, probably they fear the risk of capture and all of that. All right, guys, let's continue on. We got a few more pages. So my daughter will be coming in, our 7-year-old, but don't worry about it. I missed her. All right, let's keep going. If his family was that careful, how cautious would Ibrahim be? Months passed with no trace of him. In late October 2004, Yasser Arafat became ill during a meeting. His people said he had the flu, but his condition got worse, and he was finally flown out of the West Bank to a hospital outside of Paris. On November 3, he slipped into a coma. Some said he had been poisoned. Others said he had AIDS. He died November 11 at age 75. And that's something. I didn't know that. They're coming through the door. A week or so later, my father was released from prison, and no one was more surprised than he was. Loai and the other Shin Bet officials met with him the morning of his release. Give me one. All right, guys, I'm back. All right. So anyway, wow. So Yasser Arafat has passed away. So his father was released from prison. Sheikh Hassan, they said, it is time for peace. People outside need a person like you. Arafat is gone. A lot of people are being killed. You are a reasonable man. We have to work things out somehow before they get worse. Leave the West Bank and give us an independent state, my father replied, and it will be over. Of course, both sides knew that Hamas would never stop short of taking back all of Israel, though an independent Palestine might bring peace for a decade or two. Outside Ofer prison, I waited along with hundreds of reporters from around the world, carrying his belongings in a black garbage bag. My father squinted in the bright sunlight as 2 Israeli soldiers led him out the door. We hugged and kissed, and he asked me to take him directly to Yasser Arafat's grave before going home. I looked into his eyes and understood that this was a very important step for him. With Arafat gone, Fatah was weakened and the streets were boiling. Fatah leaders were terrified that Hamas would take over, igniting a turf war, in essence, a civil war. The United States, Israel, and the international community were afraid of a civil war. But so this gesture by the top Hamas leader in the West Bank was a shock to everyone, but no one missed the message. Calm down, everybody. Hamas is not going to take advantage of the death of Arafat. There will be no civil war. The fact was, however, that after a decade of arrests, imprisonments, and assassinations, the Shin Bet still had no clue who was actually in charge of Hamas. None of us did. I had helped them arrest known activists, men heavily involved in the resistance movement, all the while hoping they were the ones. We put people under administrative detention for years, sometimes based on suspicion alone. But Hamas never seemed to notice their absence. So, who was really in charge? And I think here in America, we are asking that very same question. Who the heck is in charge? Right? Who in the Sam Nilly is in charge? I want to know. Don't you want to know? Let's keep going. The fact that it wasn't my father came as a big surprise to everyone, even me. We bugged his office and car, monitored every move he made, and there was absolutely no doubt that he was not pulling the strings. Hamas had always been something of a ghost. It had no central or branch offices, no place where people could drop by to talk to movement representatives. Hey, that sounds like the capital city, Charleston, West Virginia. It sounds like Boone County when you try to get to know the local infrastructure of government. Nobody can ever seem to tell you anything. You ask to speak to people for town hall meetings, nothing ever comes of it. What is with that? I don't know. Are we sniffing out corruption? Whatever it is, just confess to it and let's move forward. We must come to the table, which means you must come to the table with your people. You're going to take our taxes, our money, then you better come to the table with us, is all I can say. You can't just keep arresting me. You could try. You could try. All right, let's keep going. So lots happened, a lot's happened, a lot's happened. So, I mean, there's a real shot here. There's a real shot here. But as he always refers, you cut off the head of a snake, another head grows, and nobody knows better than he would, being the very son of one of the leaders, one of the people who originally started Hamas. So I would dare say he's an expert. All right, let's continue on. So he says Hamas had always been something of a ghost. It had no central or branch offices, no place where people could drop by to talk to movement representatives. That's what a Capitol building is for. And there was absolutely no doubt. Oh, wait, sorry. A lot of Palestinians came to my dad's office, shared their problems, and asked for help, especially the families of prisoners and martyrs who lost their husbands and fathers during the intifadas. But even Sheikh Hassan Yousef was in the dark. Everybody thought he had all the answers, but he was no different than the rest of us. All he had were questions. Once he told me he was thinking of closing his office. Why? Where will you meet with the media? I asked. I don't care. People are coming from everywhere, hoping I can help, but there is no way I can provide for everyone who needs help. It's simply too much. So, he's begging his people over and over again, time and time again, please, roll up your sleeves, help this effort out. I can't do it by myself. My family can't carry the load by ourselves. Help us, help us, help us. Sorry, he feels defeated. Why doesn't Hamas help them? These are the families of the movement members. Hamas has lots of money. Yes, but the organization doesn't give it to me. So ask for some. Tell them about all the people in need. I don't know who they are or how to get hold of them. But you're the leader, I protested. I am not the leader. You founded Hamas. Father, if you're not the leader, who is? No one. No one is the leader. I was shocked. The Shin Bet was recording every word, and they were shocked as well. One day I received a call from Maheda Talameh, Saleh's wife. We hadn't spoken since her husband's funeral. Hi, how are you? How are Musab and the other kids? She started to cry. I don't have money to feed the children. I thought, God forgive you, Saleh, for what you did to your family. Okay, my sister, calm down, and I will try to do something. I went to my dad. Saleh's wife just called. She doesn't have any money. She doesn't have money to buy food for her children. Sadly, Musab, she is not the only one. Yes, but Saleh was a very good friend of mine. We have to do something right away. Son, I told you, I don't have any money. Okay, but somebody's in charge. Somebody has plenty of money. This isn't fair. This man died for the sake of the movement. My father told me he would do what he could. He wrote a letter, sort of a to whom it may concern, and sent it to a drop point. We couldn't track it, but we knew the recipient was somewhere in the Ramallah area. A few months earlier, the Shin Bet had sent me to an internet cafe downtown. We knew that someone using one of the computers there was in communication with Hamas leaders in Damascus. We didn't know who these leaders were, but there was no denying that Syria was a hub of Hamas's power. It made sense for Hamas to maintain a whole organization, an office, weapons, and military camps. Somewhere it could be out from under the Israeli hammer. We don't know who it is communicating with Damascus, Loai said, but he sounds dangerous. As I walked into the cafe, I found 20 people sitting at computers. None had beards. Nobody looked suspicious, but one of them caught my attention, though I have no idea why. I didn't recognize him, but my instinct told me to keep an eye on him. I knew it wasn't much to go on, but over the years, the Shin Bet had learned to trust my hunches. We were convinced that whoever this man at the internet cafe was, he was probably dangerous. Only highly trusted people were able to communicate with Hamas leaders in Damascus, and we hoped that he might also lead us to the elusive, shadowy elite who actually ruled Hamas. We'd like to know that in the United States. Who's the shadowy figures that actually run this Democratic Party? All right, let's keep going. And in a fair assessment, I have to say that I thought that RFK was very courageous. I think that Nicole Shanahan is very courageous. I think they are about real policy and real issues. I think they have real plans and real solutions as well, and a lot to bring to the table. So, yeah, I think it's time for unification all across the board. And he spoke out against a lot that he didn't really have to. And I love the uniparty idea. I love it. I don't see anything wrong with it because, I mean, a house divided cannot stand. We should all be standing for the same things. How are we not? Anyway, let's keep going. So thank you all for your sacrifices. All right. Wow. So this is craziness. A few weeks later, I held an open house for some property in Ramallah that I had put up for sale. Several people came, but no one made an offer. Late that afternoon, after I had closed up, I got a call from a man who asked if he could still see the house. I was really very tired, but I told him to go on over and I would meet him there. I returned to the property and he showed up a few minutes later. It was the man from the internet cafe. He told me his name was Aziz Kayed. He was clean shaven and very professional looking. I could tell he was educated, and he said he ran the respectable Al Barak Center for Islamic Studies. He didn't seem to be the link we were looking for, but rather than confuse the Shin Bet even more, I kept the discovery to myself. Sometime after my encounter with Kayed, my father and I set out to visit cities, villages, and refugee camps throughout the West Bank. In one town, more than 50,000 people gathered to see Sheikh Hassan Yousef. They all wanted to touch him and hear what he had to say. He was still deeply loved. 50,000 people. That's a huge crowd, you guys. 50,000. And in a spot, and in a remote area like that where resources are limited, let's keep going. In Nablus, a Hamas stronghold, we met with top organization leaders, and I figured out which one of them were members of the Shura Council, a small group of 7 men who make decisions on strategic issues and daily activities for the movement. Like my dad, they were among the eldest Hamas leaders, but they were not the executives we were looking for. After all these years, I could not believe the control of Hamas had somehow, somewhere along the line, slipped into unknown hands. If I, who was born and raised in the heart of the movement, had no idea who pulled the strings, who knew? The answer came out of the blue. One of the Shura Council members in Nablus mentioned the name of Aziz Kayed. He suggested that my father visit Al Barak and meet this good man. My ears perked up immediately. Why would a local Hamas leader make such a recommendation? There were simply too many coincidences. First, Aziz caught my eye in the internet cafe. Then he showed up at my open house. And now the council member was telling my dad he should meet this man. Was this a sign that my hunch was correct and Aziz Kayed was someone important in the Hamas organization? Could we even be so fortunate as to have found the person in charge? As unlikely as it sounded, something inside me said to follow my instinct. I raced back to Ramallah, where I called Loai and asked him to order a computer search for Aziz Kayed. I'm going to turn the camera off and keep going. Several Aziz Kayeds popped up, but none who fit the description. We had an emergency meeting, and I asked Loai to widen the name search to the entire West Bank. His people thought I was crazy, but they went along with me. This time, we found him. Aziz Kayed was born in Nablus and was a former member of the Islamic student movement. He had discontinued his activities years earlier. He was married with children and free to travel out of the country. Most of his friends were secular. We found nothing suspicious. I explained to the Shin Bet everything that had happened from the moment I stepped into the internet cafe to the visit to Nablus with my father. They said that although they definitely trusted me, we simply didn't have enough to go on yet. I know that's got to be frustrating. All right, give me a moment. Let me wet my whistle. Getting exciting. And I'll remind you all that once we wrap up this chapter, we only have 2 more chapters left. There's an afterword. There's an afterword, an afterthought. Give me one moment. I gotta fix this. Testing, testing, testing. Okay, yeah. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I was trying to fix the. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. It's a really good book. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that, guy. I'm so fidgety with this stupid microphone. All right, let's keep going. I'm gonna turn the camera off again. All right. Wow. So they've stumbled onto a lot of stuff here, and they're trying to figure more stuff out. So let's see what they come up with. I explained to the Shin Bet everything that had happened from the moment I stepped into the internet cafe to the visit to Nablus with my father. They said that although they definitely trusted me, we simply didn't have enough to go on yet. While we were talking, I thought about something else. Tayed reminds me of 3 other guys. I said to Loai, Salah Hussein from Ramallah, Hadib Zayedeh from Jerusalem, and Najee Madi from Salfit. All 3 of these guys have advanced university degrees and were at one time very active in Hamas, but for whatever reason, they simply dropped out of sight about 10 years ago. Now, they all live very normal lives, completely removed from political involvement. I always wonder why someone who was so passionate about the movement would just quit like that. I bet he was. I'd be wondering about that too. Could these 4 unlikely men be the real puppet masters running Hamas, controlling every military wing? Could they have been flying under the radar while we had been targeting all the high profile guys? We continue to dig, monitor, and wait. Finally, our patience paid off with an enormous intelligence breakthrough. We learned that these deadly 30 somethings had gained total control of the money and were running the entire Hamas movement in the West Bank. They brought in millions of dollars from the outside, which they used to buy arms, manufacture explosives, recruit, all under the cover of one Palestine's numerous and seemingly innocuous research centers. No one knew them. They never appeared on TV. They communicated only by letters through drop points. They obviously trusted no one, as evidenced by the fact that even my father had no clue about their existence. One day, we followed Najee Madi from his apartment to a commercial garage a block away. He walked to one of the units and lifted the door. What was he doing there? Why would he lease a garage that far from his home? For the next 2 weeks, we never took our eyes off him. That stupid garage. But nobody came again. Finally, the door opened from the inside, and Ibrahim Hamed stepped out into the sunlight. The Shin Bet waited just long enough for him to return to the building before launching an arrest operation. But when Hamed was surrounded by special forces, he did not fight to the death as he had ordered Saleh and the others to do. Take off your clothes and come out. No response. You have 10 minutes, then we will demolish the building. 2 minutes later, The leader of the military wing of Hamas in the West Bank walked through the door in his underwear. Take off all your clothes. He hesitated, stripped, and stood before the soldiers naked. Ibrahim. Sorry, guys, but pulled my computer off. Oh, glad I don't have the camera on. If I did, it would be going nuts. Give me just a moment, guys. All right, sorry about that. This is nuts. So take off all your clothes. Ibrahim Hamed was personally responsible for the death of more than 80 people that we could prove. It may not be a very Jesus-like impulse, but if it had been up to me, I would have put him back in his filthy garage, locked him in for the rest of his life, and saved the state the expense of a trial. Capturing Hamed and exposing the real leaders of Hamas proved to be my most important operation for the Shin Bet. It was also my final one. Wow, you guys. All right. So once again, Musab has not disappointed with the eloquent writing. He with Ron Brackin is amazing. You guys, I thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Regina Connell. You guys check out our other content. Join us every morning. Tomorrow we'll be releasing. No, wait. Today's Friday, so we don't work on the weekends. I forgot. I'm not supposed to work on the weekends. So you guys, we will not be doing RTNT 93 in the morning. Join us. I think isn't today Friday? Yes, today's Friday. So weekend time. Hubby has to go back to work, you guys. So we have a lot of things to work on. So I'm going to diligently work to get these books done. So depending on what goes on the weekend, I might read some more this weekend. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to try to, though. Anyway, so thank you guys for joining me. My name is Regina Connell. This is BBM Bobina's Book Nook, a division of RC Squared, a podcast for the people. And we will see you guys next time here on BBM Bobina's Book Nook, where we just finished up chapter 25 of Son of Hamas by Mosab Hassan Yousef with Ron Brackin. All right, guys, I'll see you next time here on RC on RC Square, Bobina's Book Nook, BBN. You guys, thank you so much. I'm trying to find the thing. Oh, yeah. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.